When you run a transient cooling analysis in Moldex3D, or a CT analysis, there are three options at your disposal for what the outputs of the simulation are going to be. I get a lot of questions around these options about whether they will affect the results and what information is actually given by each of them. So in today's advanced tips and tricks, we're taking a closer look at the different cooling analysis computation styles. In the computation parameters, you have three options up at the top of the Cool tab for how to run the analysis. You can uncheck this box. If you uncheck the box, this is what we would refer to as a heat sink analysis. A heat sink analysis will effectively treat the cooling channels as conductive and convective elements, but there will not actually be a flow calculation ran through those elements. So you'll get all of the heat transfer information, but you won't get any flow-based information from those cooling channel outputs. When you check this box, it will allow you to run either a network analysis or a 3D CFD. Those are the two options that we see under here. The cooling channel network analysis will only be available if you have a line-defined cooling system. If you have any elements of your cooling system that are based on a solid geometry, this option will not be available. The network analysis will not be available, and you will only have the option to either run the heatsink analysis or the CFD analysis. The other option here is a 3D CFD. This is a full comprehensive CFD for the flow characterization in your cooling channels. And so you'll be able to see more complex result outputs than what you would get out of a network analysis or what you would get out of the heatsink analysis with respect to how the flow is actually moving through the channels. I've ran a simulation here to see what are the relative output differences between the three different types of analyses. So I have my CFD analysis, I have the network analysis, and then a little bit further down here, I have my heatsink analysis. All right, so this represents all three of those analysis option types. And I've ran a full warpage analysis, CT, FP, CTW, for each of these to see if there's any impact on the final warpage results. First things first, though, let's look at the outputs of each of these cooling solvers. Starting with the most simple of them, the heatsink analysis. This will give us all of the heat transfer based information. And so we can see things like temperature, we can see the cooling efficiency, we can see our mold temperature difference, and all these are necessary for the evaluation of the simulation results, minus the temperature difference between the inlet and outlet. All of the questions that you would want to answer for a cooling analysis interpretation are covered in the video here. But all the items here allow us to understand the impact of our cooling channel system on our mold. And so if I were to go into my mold base, even though this is a very simple cooling channel analysis style, this is that heat sink analysis where we're just treating the cooling channels as effectively like a cold heating rod with some convective and conductive heat transfer coefficients. If I were to look at temperature and I can take a slice through my mold, I can see that there is still, in fact, a distribution of temperature through my mold. And I could still use like a isosurface tool to understand where the hot spots are. So all of this information is still available at your disposal, even through the heatsink analysis. Although the heatsink analysis is quite simple, it is still very powerful and captures all of the information that we need to evaluate for one of these comprehensive cooling simulations. The benefit of the heatsink analysis is that we get a lower computation time. The downside being, of course, that you get some lack of result items with respect to the flow through the cooling channel system. Now, if you're just interested in the impact of the cooling channels thermally on the mold, then maybe a heatsink analysis is all right for you. The second analysis type is the network analysis. The network analysis does actually run a flow calculation through the cooling channels. And so we can see some flow related information down here. Things like the Reynolds number is available as a distribution. However, it is a little bit less distributed than something like a CFD, where we might get a velocity distribution across the thickness. This velocity distribution that we'll see in corresponding Reynolds number distribution are pretty much constant across the cross section. So this Reynolds number is a little bit more averaged across the thickness, and you can actually see the difference between the inlet and outlet, and even the difference between the maximum and minimum on the scale here is pretty minimal. Although the information that we're looking for here is to make sure that we're in the turbulent range of flow over 4,000 Reynolds number. And so in this case, we can very much see that we are above that 4,000 number. And that's usually the extent of the information that we're looking for out of this type of analysis. In addition to the Reynolds number, you'll also be able to see things like your coolant pressure and coolant temperature, which the coolant pressure and temperature are also not very distributed across the thickness of the cooling channel, but you can actually see a rise in temperature as the coolant medium moves through the cooling channel. You can see that temperature increase. And we usually want to make sure that that increase is less than 3 degrees Celsius, as shown in the video that I mentioned earlier. So this coolant specific information is output from the network analysis, but is not output, unfortunately, by the heat sink analysis. If we want to go one step further and we want to get the comprehensive flow calculation through our cooling channels, this would be the 3D solid cooling channel analysis, or the CFD analysis as we call it. And with the CFD analysis, we get actually a very similar result output. There's a couple of additional items that we get with the CFD that were not available in the network analysis, but you can still see things like Reynolds number, and actually the Reynolds number is a little bit more distributed along the length of flow, as we're able to see these eddy currents, we're able to see any sort of disruptions in flow. This information we're able to see a little bit more conclusively with the CFD analysis, whereas the network analysis just showed kind of a constant change along the flow path. Things like the coolant Reynolds number, the coolant temperature, we can actually see a better distribution across the thickness for this as well. If I were to take a clipping plane, actually see that boundary layer kind of exist as a heat transfer entity from the mold base to the cooling channel. As the coolant moves along that flow path, we'll usually see that the heat is picked up on the surface and then that's transferred into the middle of the channel. This is something that we would be able to see through the 3D solid cooling channel analysis or the CFD analysis. We wouldn't be able to see necessarily through the network analysis. Although the network analysis will show the temperature rise as an average value, we won't be able to see that distribution across the thickness very well. Because this is a full characterization of the flow through our cooling channel, we're able to see things like the velocity distribution. We weren't able to see this in the network analysis, and so we get the velocity distribution, so we can see this as a distribution. So I can get a clipping function, and we can see how that velocity is changing from the mold wall, which is a velocity of 0, into the middle of the cross section. You can actually see that there's a zone, there's an asymmetry created by the flow of the coolant through this cooling channel. This is the inlet over here, which has a pretty much concentrically uniform or concentrically symmetric flow distribution. And then as the coolant flows, you can see that there's a bit of asymmetry created. In addition to this, we can see the coolant velocity vector, which is just another way to visualize the same information. And this is where the Reynolds number is calculated from. So I can throw up a tandem display with this and the Reynolds number put side by side. You can actually see that these two align pretty well with one another. It should be almost 1-to-1. Where there's a high velocity, there should be a high Reynolds number because velocity is proportional to Reynolds number. Now, this is just a linear flow path, but if you were to have a more complex flow channel where the coolant has a decision to make for where the easiest flow path is located on your geometry, then this information might be a little bit more exciting. In this case, it's just dropping in velocity around the corner, and then there's a little bit of a higher velocity on the outside rail, which is pretty expected for this type of flow path. But if the flow path gets a little bit more complex, if it branches off, if there's a parallel cooling system, then this information would be quite useful for what the relative velocity of that coolant would be in different sections of your cooling system. And then one last thing that you get as an output here is the streamlines, which allows you to see kind of a particle tracer of the flow through your cooling channels. And so I can play this as an animation of the flow of these particles from the inlet of the cooling channel to the outlet of the cooling channel. And again, this might be a little bit more exciting if you have a dynamic flow path, an object or an insert where the coolant has a decision to make as far as the flow path is concerned. In this case, not too exciting. The particles all kind of end up at the outlet. You can use this information to figure out what is the preferred flow path of the coolant and maybe make some design decisions accordingly. I think the biggest question that I get around these three analysis options is what is the impact on warpage? Because we have three different methodologies for running the cooling analysis, and because the differential temperature effect in the mold has a big effect on the part's warpage, we need to understand what is the relative accuracy of these three cooling analysis options. And so I'm going to throw up a three window comparison, right? And we're going to put warpage, sync all of these. On the left side, I'll have the CFD. Middle, I'm going to have my network analysis. And on the right side, I'm going to have my heat sink analysis. And actually, as it turns out, the warpage is pretty much exactly the same between all three of these analyses. So you can see the maximum on each of these scales, although they're slightly different, very slightly different, they are pretty much exactly the same. I can look at the differential temperature effect specifically and see what the relative impact would be on the differential temperature. And we can actually see that there is not really a change in the differential temperature effect. If I move this down a little bit, actually see that they are very, very similar to one another, although once again, not exactly the same. They are very similar. And so hopefully this builds a little bit more confidence in the analysis type that you choose. The heatsink analysis, while it gives a lower computation time, also gives a limited result output. And then the CFD analysis gives a much longer computation time, but the benefit of that is more result information at your disposal. But regardless of which of these three types of analyses you run, you can have confidence that the warpage analysis will not be impacted in a significant way. Thank you for watching this Moldex3D Advanced Tips and Tricks. If you have any suggestions for future discussion topics, you can leave those in the comments below. You can subscribe to get notified of when new videos like this are posted in the future. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. We'll see you in the next one.